Be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Hello. My question was regarding initiatives for renewable resources on our combat operations, such as our forward operating bases in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom back in '07, so maybe this was in its infancy because I didn't see it on our bases, but is there being any initiatives that you know of being taken on these bases, such as solar panels, because the sun is shining like 95% of the time?
Yeah, well, obviously those Iraqi bases are logical, but there's been a lot of initiatives. Not all of them have been successful. One of the problems has been that sometimes there's operation maintenance things that we haven't got the training straight for. Also, you know, there's this notion that we're there for a short period of time, even though it ends up being a long period of time, which results in the planning to do something like renewable energy being difficult. But Ben, I don't know if you were involved, but you know, we've got this group that's been working with the Afghanistan National University on renewable power that's providing that, and they're moving forward with that. And we've had a team from the lab that's been helping them with the design for what to do there. And there are a number of those initiatives going forward. Some of them have been successful, some haven't. But almost all of them have been since 2007. That quote that I had from General Zilmer, that was about 2006, 2007. And it was just when we're saying, hey, what are we doing? You know, all this fuel is going out here. What about renewables? Yeah.
Thank you.
Early on in your presentation, you listed greenhouse gases that are apparently of concern to the military. And on the list was SF6 sulfur hexafluoride. How's the military using that gas, and why is it of particular concern?
I used a slide that was CEQ slide on scope 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse gases. And I didn't mean to imply anything specific about the military, I'm sure, is using that in a number of ways, but I don't know that. What? Yeah, but that was a CEQ slide, that's Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, and they use it. I mean, all the agencies have been using that to explain what scope 1, 2, and 3 are. And it wasn't specifically about the Army.
I want to follow up on John's comment about how we move forward with the renewable energy stuff. And it seems to me that one big advantage of having the Army or the military complex involved in this discussion is they own and operate all of those buildings. And they're small cities. And we in the state have a similar goal of 25% by 2025, so all of our communities are adopting these goals of 25% reductions by 2025. So maybe this is a really key opportunity to help figure out how to do that, how to make those transitions, and how to make sure that the systems are reliable and can handle those loads in these small and dedicated places. I mean, maybe what we should be doing is trying to help them figure out how to do it and what the plans for making those transitions are. I think that might actually be really critical for us.
Yeah, that
I might suggest, for example, as long as you're building microgrids, then you lead the way in creating the smart grid, the smart microgrid, to the extent that the Army operations tolerate time sequencing of loads and other necessary strategies.
The 34 microgrid projects that I mentioned across the Army are all happening in discussions with the local grid provider. I mean, so there's got to be an interface between these microgrids and what the grid providers are doing in terms of the smart grid. There are also some concerns about defense security issues and communications, and are we going to have the right protocols, and are there going to be issues with some disconnects between those protocols. that are also having to be discussed in those locations. However, we really ought to have that discussion at an industry to defense level as well, not just at the 34 locations. So there's a group that just got formed to try to look at, you know, we can't be doing 34 of these without having the right coordination across the whole effort. So yeah, that's an important point, and I think we're just growing into a realization of the dimensions of that.
Changing topics a little bit. Bill, you mentioned a whole bunch of electric vehicles being deployed within the Army. So you're going to switch from Scope 1 to Scope 2 emissions for these vehicles.
Exactly.
Have you been looking at the Scope 2 emissions themselves and decide where to deploy these vehicles?
Yeah. I had a slide up there of where the grid had issues, but there's also, DOE has a nice slide of, you know, where is the grid producing power from coal versus where is it producing hydro? And obviously, you know, you want to put them in places where it makes sense to put them. It doesn't make sense to, you know, put them more demand on coal if we got options to put them where there's hydro is what's supplying.
Exactly, yeah. Like you don't want an electric car in Champaign, but you want one in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because you go backwards with CO2.
I do not think in the allocation of where those first 10,000 went, anybody thought of that. We are now putting that analysis together to do this net zero study. But no, I don't think that was a consideration at all. I mean, that's the issue of, you know, we jump into it. I like the 500 megawatt cited earlier, was clearly jumping too soon without knowing what was going on. It was just a senior person saying, we're going to do it, we're going to make a difference, we're going to do it right away. And that's part of what happens with big organizations.